Hi, Katie. How are you?
Hello, I'm doing so good. How are you?
Good. Thank you for being here and thank you for sharing your journey and your story. It's really something that hits me, and I'm like, I have to have her on my show. I have to. I just want everybody to hear what you have to say and about your journey. And so, do you want to start by telling some things about you?
Yeah, I'm currently a teacher, like health coach, aspiring health coach. I love to hike. I love to do yoga. My current thing is I'm getting into climbing at the climbing gym, so I'm a big mover. I have a lot of sisters, and yeah, I just am totally geek out about everything holistic health. I have such a story, and this is my favorite thing to talk about. So I'm excited
Oh,
to be here.
thank you. That's awesome. So you're loving life and life is loving you now.
Yes.
That wasn't always the case. So tell us where it began. When did everything begin? And how old are you today?
Yeah, so I just turned 31 in November, and I this actually all began when I was 14. So it was pretty long. I had acne as a teen, and my mom's side has acne, and so right away the doctor started treating me with antibiotics, and I actually took antibiotics throughout high school and college until I was about 21. So a good 6 years on multiple antibiotics, Bactrim, deoxycycline, like pretty much any, because obviously they stopped working, right? So I,
It was working for a little while. Some of it was
it
working.
worked for a little until
Were
it
you
didn't.
having, yeah, were you having side effects during those years from,
Yeah, great question. So, not in high school, but in college, and I'm a twin, so I'm going to bring her up a lot because we had very similar experiences. Both of us who were very happy dancers, go lucky girls, both of us in college got very depressed and then also had stomach issues, probably like midway through college. So, sophomore or junior year was when I noticed, okay, something's going on. And then, do you want me to keep
say,
going?
stomach issues? What kind? Was it constipation or was it like, I mean,
Yeah, so I remember I actually just like stopped digesting food, and I started to like kind of have like a disordered eating habit because I was always small and then I wasn't able to eat food. So I was like bloated, but at that age, I thought I was like fat because I was bloated. So I went down this rabbit trail, and at 21, I found out what leaky gut was, and that I was literally at my college library and I looked up how when you take antibiotics, it kills the good probiotics. And it was something that I discovered. So it was kind of really exciting as a teen that so that's when I started to like go to stores and get probiotics. And I did see like a holistic nutritionist because I had a friend who told me to go to her, or a nutrition therapist, not a nutritionist. She was a therapist. And the therapist told me, we had one session. She said, take probiotics and digestive enzymes. And so that was like the beginning. If
and how
only I
old
had
were
stuck.
you? And how old were you at
Yeah,
that point?
I was about 21. So at this point, like 7 years on antibiotics.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I did proceed to take more medication after that.
Okay, but you listened to her and did the probiotics and enzymes.
Mhm.
That helping?
That helped with my like mental disordered eating because I was able to start digesting food. And so I would go grab probiotic yogurt. I would go get probiotics, and it helped me be able to like live. I wouldn't say it helped me thrive. So I didn't get as much stomach aches. I was able to eat most kind of foods. I was still uncomfortable, but it helped me like actually be able to finish college, if that makes sense. Because before it was just so bad I wouldn't even eat because it was so bad.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And then when did so then the depression was starting. Where was that? When did that?
Yeah. So that was a kind of around the same time. I would say like 2021. I thought I was like depressed, and then turned out it was pretty much due to the lack of probiotics. But throughout college, I remember like actually feeling physiologically depressed. So not just sad, but like in my body. I knew things weren't right. I felt it in my brain. And I actually thought like, oh, this is just like, maybe I'm just a depressed person. And so at that point, I actually don't think I made the connection that my depression was due to antibiotics. That kind of clicked a little bit later.
Okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
So it started when you were 14, you were on antibiotics all the way through college. It was helping, but then it was like, wasn't working anymore. So you switch antibiotics, and never did the doctors recommend a probiotic.
No. Mm-mm. Yeah,
Unreal.
it's crazy.
Yeah. And then when did the antidepressants start happening?
So there was something in between that. Around 21, my twin sister and I decided to take Accutane. We actually wanted to take it a lot earlier, but we didn't have like our specific medical coverage where we went to school. So like our last year of college, we both went on Accutane. And I remember we both like we prayed like when we took our first dose, like, God, please get rid of our acne. Like, and like it had been years at this point. We just wanted to like have a life that everybody else had. So we took a round of Accutane, and at this point I still really believed in the medical system and was just like thought acne was me and my problem. So I took the Accutane, and I actually went through a really hard time on the drug. My twin did not have the same issue, but I went through a really, really, really hard time. My acne got worse. My depression got worse. We graduated college and I didn't even want to go to graduation, which kind of makes me tear up because, it was a very hard college. But like, that's how severe the Accutane affects your brain. And that's known, that part is known. But I remember my sister like pretty much had to get me ready to go to graduation. And so the Accutane came before the antidepressants.
So what do the doctors say when you're like, it's not solving, you're still having acne or taking the medication?
Yeah, they said that's pretty normal. And so they just said, like, keep going. And so I kept going, and it did eventually clear up and the acne did go away.
You don't even
Um,
know if it was the medication. It could have been something else that solved it. I mean,
exactly.
you don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. So after the Accutane, I definitely still had gut issues, but I just like managed it mentally through like probiotics and everything like that. And at that point, I was just happy my acne was gone. So I actually lived a really full life for 2 years. Other than like getting a couple injuries, I think that were due to Accutane because your body really is never the same after. And so I did get a couple injuries during that time. But it
Like,
wasn't in.
what do you mean?
Go
Like,
ahead.
can you give example?
Sure. So I'm a very active person. And so I would like go on runs and go to hot yoga. And I worked at a desk. So I would make sure that my time off would be very full of movement. And so during that time, I got like a hip injury and no one could like diagnose it. And I just literally had to like stop working out, which was really hard. And I don't know how much you know about Accutane, but they actually tell you not to work out when you're on it just because it does affect the bones. And
Mm,
so my theory is that like a little bit of that stays with you. So when most people wouldn't have been prone to injury, my body was. And keep in mind, I'm very small and I took a very high dose. So
mm.
that kind of stayed with me.
Ugh, oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
I know.
Okay, so when did you start healing yourself, or when did you like tell me, go ahead with your pattern of what
Sure.
transpires next after this? Because I didn't know that about Accutane. I just have my own personal journey with antibiotics, and even my son had some challenges in his younger life where I learned about probiotics though, so I kind of knew about that. But so tell me, so you graduated college.
Worked my first job, was really happy, and then eventually I got depressed again. Um, and or thought I was depressed at this point. I'm not sure if I actually was. I look back now and I think I actually was just didn't like my job. But I think, I was still in that whole loop, like, oh, if you feel bad, take a medicine. So I knew a couple of people on antidepressants, so I decided to take an antidepressant. And that was probably my biggest like regret. I was about 23 and I had never gotten as suicidal. And depressed as when I tried my first antidepressant. I quit my job. I moved like 4 hours back to my hometown. I left all my friends and my community. And I was still trying to act normal, but I wasn't normal. And so I went to my psychiatrist. He gave me another medicine. I ended up like quitting the second job I had gotten and thinking I was just like depressed, and just ended up working at a sauna. And I always kind of knew that health and wellness was there. Like I worked at an infrared sauna. The software company I worked at was health and wellness. I was always into like yoga and like being attuned to my body because I'm a dancer, and I like no, I am very spiritual. So I was a very Christian in college and after college. So I felt like I always kind of knew like, okay, this isn't right. But I was still thinking, I still labeled myself like a depressed person. So I kept on the meds. Go ahead.
Yeah, and you also believed in the medical system,
Yes.
believed
Mhm.
in
Mhm.
doctors versus all these like spiritual and higher self and everything, like your health and well, like something was saying this isn't good, this isn't right, but yet you were kind of just, no, they're, okay.
And so after a while, I was like, I was still trying to like chase life, and I was getting my teacher credential. And then I was like working to support myself, but then all I would do is sleep. And I was like, okay, this is not my life. I spent 3 years basically like numb. So I did get my teaching credential, but other than that, I had no much of a life. Like I really didn't do much. I didn't date. I didn't really go out with friends, which is very unlike me. I'm a very personable person. So what I think the medicine did is it did a good job at like sedating me, but then my personality was gone. And when I look back now, like there was no like my spirit was just like, it numbs you, but it numbs all of you. So eventually I was like, I don't want to sleep all the time. So I weaned myself off of the antidepressants. And then that's when I actually had a really remarkable, like not in a good way, reaction to what happened when I went off my antidepressants. Because while I was on them, I took another round of Accutane that I don't think metabolized in my body until I got off of the antidepressants. So when I got off my antidepressants, not only did I have this like insane 2-year protracted withdrawal, which I discovered while through my research that my brain took like a long time to recover. You can't take supplements, you can't, there's a lot of different things. I also had the dispersing of the Accutane, which gave me arthritis diagnosis when I x-rayed. I got pterygiums in both my eyes. The acne came back. So here I was getting off the antidepressants to like be better, but my whole body just like erupted. And at that point, once I was off the antidepressants, you can't really go back on them if you're off long enough. Otherwise, you can kind of like go a little bit psychotic. I don't know. I did some research. So I had no option but to pursue a holistic option. I couldn't go back on meds, which was my saving grace. Now that I look back at it, because I like, even when my body was erupting, I kept researching and I like kept looking and I kept looking. And that's the part of my story that I love, because I was like, the candidate of like, why would you want to go on? I got all my acne back. So all the years of the meds were like for no reason. I developed things in my eyes that never really can go away that could lead to like, potential blindness. I developed arthritis at like 27 and I was depressed. So I was like, I was totally at rock
What
bottom.
happened? What happened though? Did you step into faith? Like, what did you do? How did you solve this? Like, what did you do? You were determined.
Yes, I was determined. And the catalyst to my healing, I credit to the Heal documentary. And like I said, I've always known I could heal, but that documentary changed my life. It's called Heal. And what happened was I watched this documentary and I don't even know where I was when I watched it. But all I know is that the message was your body can heal no matter where you are if you give it a loving and nurturing environment. And I was like, oh my God, like you have all these credited people talking in this documentary saying your body can heal, your body can heal, your body can heal. You have to provide the environment. So that was like such an encouraging thing. Turns out I start like studying this one woman that was in that video or in that documentary. And I would go down all her YouTube videos, and I just went and went and went. I bought her
What was
book. She was a clinical psychiatrist turned holistic through her own story. So for me, it was like, oh my gosh, this is psychiatrist.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I binged all her YouTube videos. She's very like smart. So I bought her books, and then she kept talking about this program. And so I tried to do it myself through reading all her books. And I kind of made progress, but I still wasn't really making that progress because I didn't know that when you come off antidepressants, you can't take all these supplements. So it's getting worse. And I eventually, like, after like almost like 6 months of this, I finally got like a student teaching job. So I was like, okay, I have to heal enough to like show up to a classroom. And then her program was going on sale. And at this point, it was like $1,000. And I was like, no way can I afford that. Cause I was like tutoring. I just didn't have the money. And I applied to be part of her medical study, and I prayed. I was like, okay, God, like it was like $100 if you get part of her like study. And so I got in, did her program. Her program changed my life. I would say like meditation, the diet, and the detox is like what changed my life. And I started to heal through the meditation breath work and through her detox practices and changing my entire diet, which is really hard and really, really hard. But then that just set me off. I started to heal. I started to see that it made sense. And then I just went down like every other now I follow like 10 holistic people. But anyway, I'm talking a lot, so I'll give you some time to respond.
No, you're fine. You're fine. So basically, tell us a little bit about the detox. What was involved with that?
Sure. So the detox is like there was one little thing that she recommended that is kind of taboo in our culture, but it's called a coffee enema. Have you heard of that?
Yeah,
Okay.
I've done them before because I had my own health problems back in 11, 12. Well, 12, 13, 14. Yeah, I've done them. So you did the organic coffee enemas?
Yeah, so I noticed an immediate difference doing those. And then I have actually done them. I was doing them daily for like 2 years, and then now it's like regular, like once a week. But I would say what that did was it radically detoxed the antidepressants and helped with my Accutane long-term symptoms, which I was not finding any relief from before that. So yeah, I like swear by those. I used to like talk about them all the time. And
Well, definitely want to hear how you like the recipe or which ones you're doing.
yes, of course.
Because I've stopped all that, but I know that it would probably help me.
Yeah.
And then so the meditation, tell me like how long are you meditating, and is there
Sure.
something listening to?
Yeah, so I don't listen to anything, and that just doesn't work for me. But there was like one meditation that I learned, and it's like hands on your heart, and you close your mouth and you deep breathe through your nose. And then you just focus on your breath. And the whole act of breathing, closing your mouth, breathing through your nose, and then as you think, going back to the breath, I felt it change my brain. And I always thought like, oh my God, meditation, no, like whatever. But I actually noticed right away what this does in my day is that now when I think about something, it's easy to shift it and be like, oh, you become, you know how all the yogis say you become an observer of your thoughts. And I had been in years of therapy, and mindset work and all that stuff is good, but when you actually give your brain meditation, you can actually do all that work because you're practicing it in every day. And I just do like about 3 minutes. I learned like 3 to 5 minutes, and it's powerful. I haven't even dabbled in any other meditations because I'm like, this works for me. So I'm just going to stick with one.
Incredible. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you heard of Dr. Joe Dispenza?
I was actually just going to say that when you brought him up. Yeah. He was
Yeah.
so he's in the Heal documentary.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. He's and what his story is actually what inspired me, because he visualized in the documentary, he visualized his spine healing. And so like I got all into like the brain can heal the body.
It can. It
Yeah.
can. Yeah,
Mhm.
I truly believe that. I do. We are powerful beings. And I do believe I was just giving blood the other day and I was talking to this girl and she said her dad, she said the brain is the most powerful organ
Mhm.
and how her
Yeah.
father had healed himself basically and all these different things. But so let's see. I'm just thinking were there any, so that was it. The heal God sent you the heal documentary, right?
Yeah.
And then
Mhm.
the Kelly, and then, that's how your whole life turned around. But you knew to get off the meds. What were your parents saying during all this? Just curious.
Yeah, so my parents are very into the medical system, so they think, you're depressed, take your meds.
Mm.
I was living with my stepmom at the time who actually like I would have the open conversations with her like I don't want to be on these, but should I? And lovingly she was like, "Well, you need a student teach, so whatever you have to do to get through it." And I think like everyone always wants the best for you, and they're just trying, when you're
They
so
don't
in
know,
that.
probably. They probably just don't know what's the best.
Yeah.
They
And
don't know.
they don't know. And so what I did with her was like, okay, Maura, you need to like think about like I'm a cancer patient. So I would tell her that. And so because I started to buy organic food and like think of me like that, because that's how I'm approaching healing. And because I approached it so aggressively like that, it like people saw that I changed.
It's incredible. It's a
Mhm.
wonderful story.
Yeah.
Um, So what are you doing today to stay healthy? You've been healthy now, you've been, healed basically. You don't take any medications.
No.
Like for how long have you been great?
3+ years, no medications, not even Advil.
That's incredible. My
Yeah.
dad was a pharmacist. He never took a single
Oh,
pill.
yeah.
Yeah, he
See,
never, yeah, he didn't even take vitamins. He took nothing. And then my mother's side, my mother's mother was a pharmacist and she took things, but my dad he knew
yeah.
long before anybody about taking, even in food, the ingredients. He just, yeah, he's really
Mhm.
smart that way. So tell us, what is your diet today? Like, what are you doing?
Sure. So I am very like I would say paleo-esque. So I do a lot of like chicken, eggs, all organic. And I do like if I do grains, it's like ancient grains. So it'll be like quinoa or cassava flour tortillas. I do some rice. And I do a lot of fats like avocado. I don't do nuts just because my body doesn't like it, but that is like a good way to eat it. So basically, I follow kind of like a paleo slash whole 30 diet, which is thing that's like that's gonna inflame my body. I don't want in my body just because to me inflammation is gonna create I am still sensitive. So it's gonna create moods, it's gonna create me not feeling great. I used to be really strict and now I'm able to like go out to eat and things like that. And I don't feel limited at all. I do a lot of green juice. I just try to eat like basically very clean, organic, and no sugar, no dairy. What else? No alcohol.
That's great.
Um,
Well,
yeah.
yeah, no alcohol. Alcohol is a terrible toxin. People don't realize what they're doing to their body when they take it. They
Mhm,
really don't. And the older you get, the worse it is. So you're going into health, you're doing the coaching.
mhm.
You're starting, that's kind of a thing that you're transitioning into. And it sounds like you're absolutely qualified, in my
Thank
opinion.
you.
You're welcome. Yes. So when do you meditate? Like 3 minutes in the morning,
Mhm.
in the evening, twice a day, once a day?
Yeah, I love that question. So it's recommended that you do it right when you wake up and right when you go to bed. Do you know why, by the way?
I think at night it's helping you sleep better. In the morning, it's helping set you up to not react throughout the day and just be calmer and more centered and
Yes.
grounded to where you're just kind of like a more peaceful being. But you tell me what
I have
what
to say
you
that's yes, that's true. There's also Bruce Lipton, who's in the Heal documentary, talks about that right when you wake up and right when you go to bed, your brain is in theta state. So you're actually able to like heal your subconscious a lot easier when you meditate in the morning and night, because your brain is like the most malleable. So that's why it's like really good to do it at those times. But to be completely honest with you, I just get it done when I can get it done. But my goal is to like every morning and every night. I'm just dabbling into the neuroscience of that, but it's pretty fascinating because basically, if you want to drastically change, that's the time of your days that you should be doing like mindset work and meditating.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you have any other morning practices that you personally do other than the meditation?
Yeah, I do. Have you heard of the 5-minute journal?
I do. The little yellow one, I have it.
Yeah, the yellow one. Yeah, I
Yeah,
love that
I
journal.
love it too. I have it. Yes.
So writing down what you're grateful for, doing I am statements, which I used a lot when I was healing. I'm trying to think what else it asks you. Like, how would you make today great? So kind of like
Okay.
setting intentions.
I think
I
it's
use
a different journal. Mine
oh,
is like the first question is I'm letting go of. It's a two.
oh, okay, that's a good one too.
I'm letting
Mhm.
go of, then it's I'm grateful for, and then it's I'm gonna focus on these three.
Mhm.
But yeah, setting intentions for the day and gratitude. So
Mhm. Yeah, I never knew that stuff was as powerful as it actually is once you do it.
yes. And so what would you tell someone that's suffering with depression right now?
Mhm. Yeah, that's a really good question. The first thing that comes to mind is like don't shame yourself. I think the most thing that I have experienced and seen other people is that you personalize the depression and you make it shameful about yourself, and you you take it personally, like I am bad, right? Because I feel so bad. And the thing is that's a really scary place to be. So I would tell someone, like, first of all, have compassion on yourself. You're having really big feelings, and those feelings are big, but that you can get through them. It's okay. Like that feeling isn't going to kill you. And I think I wish we talked about that more because the feeling is so bad. And we can empathize with that, but not only will it go away once you feel it, not go away, but maybe lessen, but there's ways to treat it, right? I wouldn't say that my depression is 100% gone. I would say I manage my life in a way that my mood is stabilized. And
Mm.
in that way, I treat myself like my own patient. So I don't consume sugar because it's going to make me feel bad, you know? So, and, tell someone else, those are big things, but like just to remind yourself of what you love. When I was depressed, nothing made me feel good. So I made a good feel for you list and I started to write down everything that made me feel good. So like walking outside, drinking my king coffee, talking with a friend, and just like basic things like that to remind yourself, and then just to breathe, because I think that when I started meditating, I came back home to myself and like my heart came around and you're less in your head. So you're able to hear like who you are, and it's almost like you're your own therapist. You start to hear that your inner voice is really like nurturing you. It's really kind. It's not that negative voice that you're listening to every day.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so good. Yes, absolutely. There, we all have an inner critic. And what
Yeah.
I've learned in this last year and a little before is like when we are most critical is when we have to be the most compassionate towards ourselves
Yes.
and just be looking at how far you've come and how proud and how you're doing your best and
Mhm.
to nurture your inner child. And we all really are children in adult bodies. And
Mhm.
it's some of us just had very little parenting anyway. So it's
Mhm.
like you're really emotionally like a child. And honestly, I've done that parenting myself and, all the things you're talking about. And it's really,
Mhm.
really important. And to feel the feelings and just like you said, they're just visitors, actually. Thoughts are just visitors. And
Mhm.
I feel like when we have the feelings, like a lot of people are numbing their pain with
Mhm.
alcohol or different things versus feeling their feelings and then moving through it, or, healing after, like you said, they lessen. Your feelings lessen after you feel them. So
Mhm.
I'm no therapist, but I've just done a lot of coaching with coaches, and a lot of them were former therapists. And it's just really, like you said, it's great to write down what you love and just shift out of it by, what, when I move my body, when I turn on music, when I go out in nature, you just, oh, something doesn't feel good today. I think I'm going to go to the ocean. I think I'm going to go for a walk with the dog and turn the phone off or something, stay away from social media, whatever makes you feel better. Right.
Yeah. And
Um,
I love that you said compassionate, because that part was like really healing during my journey, was just to be compassionate to yourself. And like, I never knew, because I'm an academic, so I love this stuff, but I never knew that what you say to yourself really actually becomes your life. And I want to share this piece I just remembered with you. I had a coach who, during the really, really bad part of my healing journey, or I would say like depression journey, she said, Katie, I'm giving you homework, and you're going to look at yourself in the mirror, and you're going to say, I love and accept myself exactly as I am right now. And you're going to say it 5 to 10 times. And that changed my life, because you actually create a relationship with yourself. And I went from like so sad to like smiling. And I never realized, like, why don't we, we need to nurture ourselves and like basically parent ourselves, like you were saying.
yes. Do you follow Gabby Bernstein?
I don't, but I've heard of her, so it feels like I need to.
You absolutely need to. You need to listen to her podcast. You need to read her books. She is amazing and she's so good. But like, how about the EFT tapping?
I haven't done it, but I've heard it's really powerful.
Because a lot of the EFT tapping will be, this is happening. And then
Mhm.
you'll say, but I still love and accept myself. I love and accept myself no matter what, So
Yeah.
yeah, that's incredible. I love those. I love those affirmations so you were saying them in the mirror for how long, and how, like, once a day for five times in the mirror?
Yeah, and I would like go really close to like a body mirror. So I would like look at my face only, and I would stare at my face and say it. And I went from like crying or just being really sad to smiling. And that was a huge like turn for me. I never realized like I needed to say that to myself, but it was about I would probably say it 5 times a day, and it's pretty vulnerable, so it's hard to do. Um, but yeah, I would do it as often as I could. And even like now I'll do it in the car mirror if I'm feeling like I need something.
That's
Um, yeah,
great. Oh, so much good stuff here. I could go on and on
I
talking.
know.
I really can. So I bring up a lot of that because people in my son's life, I mean, that were friends of his, killed themselves recently, and this last September and then the year before. I mean, 20 something year olds. And I don't know if they were on medication, but something tells me that some of them were. And I had heard an interview with Dr. Wayne Dyer, who's now no longer with us, but he was interviewing a woman whose husband had passed away from killing himself, and he was on medication for sleep, but it was an antidepressant that the doctor prescribed for sleep, and he was having all kinds of terrible symptoms. And he called the doctor, and they're like, "No, keep going. Get past it." And I'm like, I mean, not to be judgy, but I feel like if that was happening to me, I would be like, no, I'm not going to keep taking this, even if
Mhm.
the doctor says to, because I'm having this kind of, but anyway, I didn't hear the entire thing. It was just really disturbing. And it sounded like from the interview, there was multiple suicidal things happening to people on this drug.
Mhm.
So even though it's an antidepressant supposed to do the opposite, it seems like it was causing what we just, talked
Yeah.
about. And I just feel like it's important to bring up, and it's a very
Mhm.
sensitive topic, but I mean, I've been in dark places where I didn't want to go on. I've,
Mhm.
I've had, I mean, I'm I have a lot of things in my past, but I assume you were suicidal before or thought, right? I mean, did you ever feel that way or?
So, yes, and only when I was on antidepressants. And they do tell you that that does happen when you come on, off, or switch. So the goal is to push through. I wanted to make a note that, you know, I had a choice to try to stay on them, and I told myself logically that, and they'll tell you this too, eventually your body adapts to the antidepressant, so you're going to max out. So I knew my depression is going to come back. So I knew, like, no matter what, I have to take care of this.
Mhm.
And yeah, I was way worse on the medicine than I ever was. Like, and now I know how to take care of myself. So if I even get a inkling of it, but yeah, it is very scary. And I agree. I think they should be treated with more caution. And unfortunately, it's just not like it's just not out there. No one's really talking about how this could be,
Yeah, yeah.
acting.
I think my dad knew what was going on when he was a pharmacist and he said not to take anything because, there's always just a side effect. Like people need to look
Mhm.
into these side effects of things.
Mhm.
But I'm all about natural and so is my son. And,
Mhm.
doctors are good if you have a heart attack or break a leg or, break something, but I don't know that we need them as much as people, you know,
Yeah.
for every little thing. And it's like the drugs are just, yeah, I'm not a fan. So if you can stay away and be healthy through nutrition, through, I had a fruitarian on my show and
Oh,
he's a breathwork person. Yeah, you'll have to listen to the episode because since that episode, I have been consciously breathing so much more. Yes. And it really, really is powerful. Like you said,
mhm.
with the breathing and meditation and paying attention to breath, it's definitely healing.
Mhm. Yeah, I talk about it all the time, and I just think that it brings us home to ourselves, and we just become so much more, you're in the parasympathetic state. So you're like, even now, as you said, breathe. I was like, oh yeah, calm down, and it just like it reminds you.
Yeah, I mean, we're not our bodies. We're not our, we're so like, I know you follow Kathy Heller. That's how we kind of met,
Mhm.
right? Yeah, I love her messages and truly, it's just it's just wild. We're all spiritual beings having a human experience, and you're going to help so many people, Katie, telling
Oh,
this story.
thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, you're
That's
going to help
cool.
so many people. Is there anything else you would like to share with the audience or
Yeah, just that, like, you can heal, like, no matter what. Like, even if you have a condition or an experience that you don't think anyone can relate to or has, like, there is a way that you can heal, and that belief alone will start that journey for you. And that also, that you really are never alone. There's so many people who are experiencing all kinds of emotions every day, and we need each other, and we need to keep talking about this so that more and more people know that they're not alone. So that's kind of it.
that's a wonderful thing. Thank you for sharing that. Absolutely, it's true. And then how can people find you if they want to work with you as a health coach?
Yeah, thank you so much. Right now I'm pretty active on my Instagram, so at Katie Marie Wellness, and you can just shoot me a DM. I'm really interested in helping others, so don't be shy.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Katie. We'll probably be talking again in the future for sure.
Of course. I'm
Yes.
so happy to be here today.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah, me too.